Hi, this is Craig. This is another mindfulness video. The theme for this one is mindful communication. And you'll see in the center here on the sheet that I'm following today, it says the art of mindful communication. And it really is an art. It's not straightforward to be mindfully communicating. So we'll talk through it. So before we do though, I think I'd start this session actually with a meditation just to ground us and get us in the moment. So for the first 10 minutes or so, that's what I'll do. And then I shall talk through this sheet. So I invite you to just relax where you are, just sit in your chair. You can close your eyes if you like. I have a bell here that I shall hit just to begin. And just to repeat, there's no right or wrong way of meditating. We're just trying to be in the moment, just observing whatever's coming up for us. And I'll guide you through. So here we go. So to begin, just focus on your breath, noticing your in-breath and your out-breath. Feeling the air as you breathe in, feeling the air as you breathe out. Breathing in, you know you're breathing in. Breathing out, you know you're breathing out. Noticing if your mind wanders away from the breath. If it does, just bringing your focus back to the breath. Breathing in calmly. Breathing out easily. And just get a sense of how you're feeling just now. Noticing any sensations in your body, any emotions, and just feel the chair that you're sitting on. Just notice the connection between your body and the chair, the ground under your feet. And whatever sensations might be present, just breathe with what's there. Breathing in awareness, breathing out calmness. And just smile to yourself, just knowing that every time you do this, you reach the present moment, releasing any tensions on your out breath. Breathing in, smiling. Breathing out, releasing. And as you breathe in, just send kindness and gratitude to your body for everything it does. And just enjoy your breathing, just feeling the in-breath, feeling the out-breath. And so just take another deep, conscious breath. And then just when you're ready, just open your eyes and come back to the space. Okay, so thank you for doing a short meditation with me just to ground ourselves, get us into the mindful zone, if you like. You may notice in these meditations your mind is wandering away into the past or the future, and that's fine. That's just what our mind does. So we're here to try and notice and bring ourselves back to our body or our breathing. Just our presence. And it's our presence that's what's required in mindfully communicating. So the first rule, before you even begin communicating with someone, is to have your discernment, your inner wisdom tapped in, so that you notice whether someone is ready to talk or not talk. And you might notice this in people's demeanor, or, you could say people are either red, amber, or green. You could kind of equate this to a traffic light. And when people are red, there's no chance of communicating, and this is, for example, people who are maybe distracted by something else. They could be in their head thinking about issues. They could be hungry. They could be, tired or grouchy or something. But anyway, you know that if you're going to interact with someone, they're not going to be able to give you their full presence back. And we can't actually change other people particularly. You might force someone into talking to you, perhaps, but really it's better to choose your time. Notice when someone is more open, when they're green. And when they're green, they're open to chat. You're having a discussion, or no problems there. But it's also good to notice when people can go amber. They could be green to begin with, and you might say something, and you start seeing barriers start to close. Maybe what you've said is disrupting the energy, or it's caused somebody to go into their head and think a bit more, and so that person is losing their mindfulness, so they go to amber. Equally, if someone is red and closed off, but you do manage to win them over with what you're saying, then they can become amber. And then when you're in amber, you've got a chance of becoming green, which is open and ready to receive conversation, or you go red again. And really, mindful communication is this kind of dance between these colors. It's noticing that when you say something, people go red or they go green. And so you can change tact when these things happen. So being present is the general rule for mindful communication, and being present is exactly what we did in our meditation, where we were with our body, with our breath, with ourselves. We're here. We're not thinking about the future or the past. So this is exactly the same in mindful communication. You want your presence there. And so the first thing that you do, and looking at the diagram, it goes up from the center there of the art of mindful communication, and it goes into this let go of ego bubble. Now, your ego is the thing that resists what is going on. It's the thing that sometimes has fear and is worried about stuff. And there's various clues that I'm going to go into on this sheet that can give you that clue that you're no longer present, you're no longer mindfully listening to a person. Maybe something they have said has sparked something in you, and so you've gone into your head and now you're in your ego acting out. Or something you've said has made that other person also go into their ego. You could say if two people are having an argument, there's two egos, attacking, defending, attacking, defending. That's not mindful communication. Mindful communication is listening, it's offering our peacefulness and our gracefulness in able to have a conversation effectively. And we'll come into what we actually do in a moment for mindful communication, but these are the clues of kind of what not to do in our mindful communication. So I'm just going to scroll to the top of those. So on the left hand side there where it says let go of ego, there's a little box, it says clues. So I'm just going to go through these. Always wanting to be right, justifying, is a classic ego trait where you're in a conversation and someone's saying, I think such and such is on at 8 o'clock tonight, and you're like, no, it's definitely 9 o'clock. It says here in the TV guide that it's 9 o'clock, this thing's on. So immediately someone's saying they think it's 8 o'clock and you're correcting them straight away. That's a very simple example of always wanting to be right. But in arguments, we do always want to be right. We believe the other person is wrong. We believe we are the only people who are right. And sometimes having a strong opinion like that can interrupt communication and can be unhelpful for the other person if they are believing something different. It's better in some ways to be more empathic and notice what the other person has got to say rather than us just bulldozing in going, well, no, that's completely wrong. You're talking nonsense. This is what's true. This happens a lot when we're angry. We get things like righteous anger where we believe we're right. And so we stay in anger, and that's not presence either. That's ego resistance. That's why we're angry. So when we're angry, we tend to say things that maybe aren't as rational. We're kind of digging our heels in a bit. It's like, no, there's no way I did it like that. It was like this. How dare you, talk to me. I deserve respect, all of these things. All of this, incidentally, is not mindful communicating. You're kind of not addressing the other person's emotions or anything like that. You're just looking after yourself in some ways. You're worried about yourself. Always wanting to be right. It's a classic. Always wanting to talk about self is the next one on this list. So again, I, me, and my. Someone might come up to you and go, oh, you know what, I've had a terrible day at work today. And you're like, oh yes, me too. When I was at work earlier, this happened and this happened, and now I'm talking about myself, and I've completely, stopped listening to the other person. So again, it's another clue that sometimes we go into our ego very quickly. We like talking about ourselves. And sometimes we interrupt conversations as well, which is the next one on this list, in order to talk about ourselves, or we're getting bored or we're getting restless. There's an emotion starting to bubble up. We might get annoyed at someone if they're talking very slowly or they're not getting to a point or something. So we're interrupting or we're giving them something straight away. But again, it's a clue that we're no longer present. We're thinking, oh, I could say this or I could dismiss that. So there's a clue. Non-listening, not being present kind of go together. If you're not present, if you're not truly mindful, then your listening is not 100%. You might be watching TV while someone's talking to you, or you might be on your mobile phone, looking through your notifications or whatever. You're not really listening. Listening is a conscious choice to listen to someone and giving that person your full attention, which we'll come to after we go through these clues. But these are things that are kind of a rule of thumb, maybe not the best thing to do, interrupt people, I'm not saying incidentally that these clues are cut and dried and that you have to adhere to them. Sometimes for the greater good, you do have to go into your ego, but rarely, I would say, rarely. So we've got stubbornness on here, a bit like digging our heels in, not swaying our opinion. That's ego as well. There could be a reluctance to talk as well. This happens a lot with teenagers. It's like, oh, I want to talk to you about tidying your room. You're like, I don't want to do this right now. Again, that's ego. Noticing that you don't want to talk to someone is interesting. It's good to get curious about these things. These are things we are resisting in the moment. We're not being mindful. We're not accepting that someone might want to talk to us. So reluctance. Feeling heavy. So it says there including illness. So obviously if you have a cold or you've got a headache or something physical is happening to you, you're going to be less present in order to receive a conversation. If you've got strong feelings as well, like anger and frustration, it's not great to have emotions and continue a conversation. It's better to deal with the emotions. Sometimes we have to leave the room or have a conversation later. If you're angry, then often what we say in anger is not truth or not what we would want to say. Often we can feel guilty about shouting at someone or, so sometimes it's good to take a step out and breathe and be with that anger and calm it down. It's not an enemy. Your other person isn't an enemy either if they cause the anger from something they did. If you're angry, you're angry. So we have to accept that we're angry, breathing with it. My old friend, anger, here you are. What have you got for me? Breathing out calmness. This can sometimes take a while, but it's really good practice to sit somewhere. And I cover this in many other videos about being with our emotions. Offering advice when not required or trying to fix something is another classic ego trait. Someone's maybe complaining about their day or how rubbish it was at their work, for example, and offering advice like, well, maybe you should try a different job, or sometimes it doesn't quite work, this offering advice thing. So again, as a rule of thumb, sometimes it's best not to try and fix the situation. People often get to their own solution. What they really want when they're talking is someone to hold the space, to sit with them, to just be with them, really, and go through what's going on. What's giving that impetus for them to speak to you in the first place. So sometimes offering advice, it's good in certain situations. If there's a dangerous situation, like, oh, please don't touch that hot stove, for example, is advice, but that's good advice. Sometimes, as I say, it's okay to offer advice, but as a rule of thumb, if you're practicing mindful listening and mindful speech, we don't really fix anybody. all we can fix is our own reaction to things. That's quite a good point. So the rest on this, on the clues here, just scrolling down to the last few. So you've got complaining, gossiping, and criticizing there. They're all judgments. If you're talking to someone and you're gossiping about someone else, or you're complaining about something, or you're criticizing that person or something, then you're not present, because underneath the judgment is some emotional response. It could be frustration, could be anger, could be anxiety. It's better to deal with the emotion, as I say, calm yourself down so that you no longer need to complain, gossip, or criticize. Conversations, you can get things, if you're requesting information or you're asking for help, you can do that in a non-complaining way. And I talk about this in my ego versus the Zen circle video as well. But as a rule of thumb, practice non-judgment. It'll get you far. If you're lying or making excuses, then yes, you're in your ego, you're not present, you're worried about being caught or something, so you're making an excuse. If you're showing off, you're needing to be the best, again, that's ego. If you're going in trying to solve people's problems, or look at me, I can do this, this is easy, da 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 da. Again, you're not really present, you're not conversing with a person, you're just showing off. You're talking about I, me, and my again. And it's got defending position there at the bottom, so if you're in defense mode, if someone's giving you a grilling and you're like, it wasn't like that, or I didn't do it this way, or it's like this, then again, you're in your ego defending your position. The final one there, it says own need not currently met next to fixing. And that's obviously if you are hungry, you have a need to eat, or you're thirsty, or you need the loo, or something like that. Or even you need space, you need time on your own, or sometimes people want to chat to us when we're not ready, when we have a need that's not met. And that's when we're red or amber in our, traffic light of whether we want to be in a communication or not. So if you are thinking more about your need than the conversation, then that's ego and you're not ready. You're not present for the conversation. So that's not a full list, incidentally, of what ego is, but it's a good place to start. So looking back at the top of this sheet, that's letting go of ego. So if someone comes to talk to you and you're in the middle of something, and you can let go of it, or you're right, I'm ready to talk, I'm ready to listen, so I'm gonna have presence, I'm gonna try and cultivate mindful presence here. This person wants to talk to me about something, so I've let go of all of this stuff. In fact, let's have some gratitude, shall we? So it says gratitude of conversation there with the dotted line, but what it means effectively is that when someone wants to talk to you, there's a gift, because they're realizing they're coming to you either for help or for guidance or for empathy or sympathy or something, but they believe that because they're talking to you that there's something you can do to help. So actually it's quite a compliment if someone wants to talk to you. And so using it as a compliment, as kind of like, oh, okay, this person's actually at this moment is needing to speak to me. Well, that's pretty cool, maybe I can help in some way. So I'm going to have gratitude, You might have been in the middle of doing something else, but this can bring you to the moment rather than sort of grudgingly or reluctantly. We talked about reluctance, not wanting to speak to someone. Having gratitude of the conversation can maybe eliminate that and give you your presence. So it's useful to think of things as gifts. Everything in the world, in the universe, is a learning for us. And so with mindfulness, we use that learning. We're there. We want to be present for whatever this learning is. So we're in conversation. Someone is now starting to speak to us. So we practice our mindfulness during the conversation. So mindfulness there has got it there. Conscious awareness in the present, no judgment. That's what it means to be mindful. So people might be saying things that you don't believe or you don't agree with or all this kind of thing, but we're practicing non-judgment. We're like, I don't need to interrupt. I don't need to tell them they're wrong. I don't need to tell them what I think, not just at this moment. At this moment, I want to receive what that person is saying. So no judgment. And actually I can breathe if I'm noticing that what they're saying is driving me to have an emotional response, So I'm going to breathe as well. So you can focus on your breath like we do in meditation and listen. We're quite good at that. So it's got mindful breathing there. It's a good way to come back and not, have the subconscious wanting to speak quickly response. It's better to, pause, have a little breath before you then say something. So mindfulness is in all of your communication in that way. So we then just listen, going down to this bit. So we're listening, 100% presence, hopefully. You're not thinking about the past or future. You're not trying to interrupt or do anything in that ego column. You are there for the person. And then we do what's called the Zen warrior approach on this sheet, because it is a challenge, and it's not easy to stay present in a communication, especially if it's about you or it's someone fishing for an argument or something. But we can still do it. We can still do it if our mindful practice is strong. So we start by offering our presence. It says offering 100% presence. You are there to listen, to receive from that person. So you then reply in empathic responses. So these are like reflections without judgment based on the facts of what you're hearing. An example. So someone might be saying, I've had a really tough day at work. So you might respond by going, oh, you've had a tough day. You've basically just reflected it back. And they're like, yes, I have. My boss was really mean to me. And you're like, gosh, your boss was rude to you? You're using your own words, but you're trying to reflect back what that person is saying to you. They'll feel heard. You're not adding anything or changing anything. You're just repeating in your own words what that person is saying. And this can be enough sometimes in communication to hold the space, to be there for that person. So reflecting is a good practice. It's actually what counsellors are very good at doing. If you were to go and see a counsellor, they would reflect back in their own words what they're receiving, just so that they know that they understand what's going on. And you can also ask questions. Questions are fine. If you're not sure, it's like, gosh, was your boss rude to you, or what did your boss do to make you feel this way? No problem asking questions like that. But hopefully the person is in a place where they can relay the information to you. So behind all of this kind of reflecting back, not fixing, not judging, not interrupting, not switching it onto yourself, all of these things. What you're doing, you're holding the space, as I say, but there's this question here on the sheet. How do I give to ease suffering? And that's in the back of your mind as a mindfulness practitioner. You are there to help the other person. You're not there to help yourself or, get out of a hole or tell them how brilliant you are. You're not doing any of that. It's not about me. It's about them. How do you give to ease their suffering? They have come to you with a problem or an issue or something they're wanting to download or offload. The least we can do is sit there, let them do that. But this is really good. This helps people. You're easing suffering straight away in the other person. So don't worry about yourself in these conversations. You can worry about yourself later. If you're angry or upset during the conversation, then it's a good thing to like, oh, you know what, I just need to have a break, or I'll come back to this. or I need the loo break. I'm going to go to the toilet, and you sit on the loo, and you're like, "Phew, I'm a bit frustrated here with this conversation." Or what? But I'll breathe in and breathe out. I'll calm that down for myself, and then maybe I can go back. So the trick is to not take offense or not get judgmental over anything. You're there to help the other person. And if you help the other person, I guarantee you will help yourself, and help that conversation and that situation. So how do I give to ease suffering? So there's a few options there. You're holding the space, I've already said that, but you've got compassion and loving kindness and patience in that sheet. So compassion is being compassionate, is being there for that person. People need compassion. Even people who are frustrated or angry about something that if they did this, they wouldn't have the problem. But you don't say, if you did this, you wouldn't have the problem, because that's not very compassionate. It's compassionate to be with the person at their level and understand where they are. That's compassion. And sometimes it's not sympathy. It's not like, oh, they're there, or it'll be okay, it'll be over soon, or whatever. That again is a solution or a placation. That's not mindful. Compassion is being kind, is offering that space for that person to offload. You're not fixing it. All you're doing is listening, nodding, taking it in. You might make the person a cup of tea or give them a hug. That's all allowed, but it's compassion is what we're after here. And you find you will build your compassion the more mindfulness you practice, and it gets easier in communication too, because we're not thinking about ourselves. How do we help? How do we send kindness? How do we ease this person's suffering? And patience is a lovely thing, because you don't get angry when you're patient. If someone's rabbiting on, and you're going, oh God, I wish they would just stop talking. It's like in your head, you're like, no, patience. Come back to myself, breathing in, breathing out. It's fine. I'm listening. I'm here for this person. So finally, just to finish, you can nurture gifts in others. You can compliment people. You can encourage people. Encouragement's probably a good way. You could say to the person, I'm realizing that what I'm hearing is that you've had a tough day, but you seem to be handling it quite well. It's good to offer these things. It helps a little bit. Being gentle, of course, your words and your speech have to be loving, kind, gentle. Selflessness is not thinking about yourself. It's exactly that. How do I give to ease suffering? Every conversation you should be going into, how do I help this other person? That's what I'm here for. Nothing about me. I can sort me out. So you notice people's feelings as well. That's a really good mindful practice. You might notice someone is saying something, but behind it all there's something else, like anger or something. And you can ask, you can go, do you feel angry about this? And then they'll immediately tell you if that's wrong, but this is the dance, you're trying to coax out what people are feeling, because some people don't realize what they're feeling. They might just be judging and criticizing, but really they're nervous or worried about something. So, that's a good practice in itself. It's like, oh, it sounds like you're worried. See what happens. This is this curiosity, exploring what's happening for a person without judging them, is a lovely practice. And it's good to have a sort of half smile on your face. You don't sort of grin inanely at people while they're talking to you, but you're present. You're not frowning or sort of doing this kind of thing or fidgeting. You're kind of present. Sort of half smile, nodding is good. To let them know that you're there for them. But your mind is quiet. You've got a kind of bubbling joy underneath. This is what mindfulness gives you after a while. It gives you this inner joy, and that can come through in conversations. And actually, people we really like to go and talk to, tend to have a lot of humor and a lot of joy behind it, but they also have a lot of presence and a lot of calmness and peacefulness, and you just know that that person will listen to you, and give you respect and give you that space so that you can download what's going on and you feel better. And this is what the world needs, and this is what we can do for people. Once we get to a mindful state where we're present, we're getting, well versed in our presence, we are more able to be present in communication with people. And it helps our relationships, it helps our work, it helps our family life, our personal life, it helps with everything. So I can't overstate how important it is to practice mindful communication. And it just starts with a very simple, you know what, I'm going to go and talk to such and such. Let me see if I can listen. Let me see if I don't have to just keep, doing what I've done before, Let's have a proper chat and let's see if I can be present for it. And don't beat yourself up if during the conversation it all goes pear-shaped and you're no longer present and you're in your head and you interrupt and you give a solution or whatever. It's all fine. This is all practice. This is not about beating ourselves up for our lack of communication skills. This is just noticing when we're listening well and when we're not, and then to re-engage with listening. And also how do we be as compassionate and kind as we can in what I say and how I listen. So that, in essence, is a very brief overview of what it takes to be a mindful communicator. So I hope that's been useful. The sheet, incidentally, is available on my website, www.craig-gilbert.com. Just click on the video link on the home page. This is number 10 in my video list, mindful communication, and if you click on that, you can download this sheet, and also there's a link to this video on that page. So thanks very much for watching again, and I hope it's been useful, and I will hope that going forward you'll go forth and you will practice your listening and your loving speech and your gentleness and your mindfulness in everything that you do, and just begin to notice things and notice what's going on for you. You find even just the gentle act of noticing can help a huge deal with everything. Just taking one's time, being slow, being patient, and being kind to ourselves all the time. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again another time.